Um, they should either make it more difficult or, I mean, I don't know, limit the kickers somehow. Because if we think about the Browns Kansas City game, there was no kick returns in that.
Zero.
Because the stadium is an enclosed thing, which means there's no wind going either way.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter. Like when there's a guy there thinking about wind, you're like, what wind?
Yeah.
And both kickers had powerful enough legs, which you should do when your only job is to kick a ball, that they just, like, you got it on the 50-yard line, kick the ball 50 yards out the back of the other end zone, and, oh, yeah, they get it on the 25-yard line. Like, every single time one of the guys actually caught the ball,
it was just a fair catch.
It was probably on the 22-yard line or maybe on the 24. Like, no one made a gain out of it. So very quickly in that game, you just basically saw them wave it off before it even got near them. Like, yeah, I'm going to fair catch it. It doesn't matter.
Here's why I always maintain that the Canadian Football League is a better game than the NFL.
Yeah.
All the NFL needs to do to make kickoffs more interesting is put in the no yards rule. Get rid of this fair catch garbage. And put in the idea where you have to the returner has to catch the ball, and then you have to give him 5 yards so that people just don't get leveled, because that's why the fair catch rule exists, so that people don't die trying to catch the ball.
Yeah.
But nobody bothers to catch the ball anyways, because they just go, oh, fair catch, we'll take it at the 25. Like it's the most unexciting play possibly in sports is the NFL football kickoff. And I don't understand why they bother with it now to begin, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything for the game.
With the best will in the world, it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
Like the only thing, and this goes back to what I was saying before you started the podcast, because I noticed you started the podcast, was that, do you want help? Okay, fine. Oh, just holding it.
They're apparently moving on the other side while we're trying to podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, sorry. I just saw my girlfriend pick up an over 1,000-pound built PC with one arm while taking the stuff on one. It was like, do you want help? Do you want some help?
Do you want to use more than one arm on that very expensive computer?
It's fine.
You either have to do what rugby did, which is the guy that I don't understand having, like, some teams have a guy that is a kicker, a punter, and sometimes a kickoff guy as well. So either that guy, like, it would not be hard to find a guy that does all three jobs. Like, I think the only reason you have two in most teams is because it means that they can have the holder as well. The punter becomes the holder in most NFL football teams. Either you make it more difficult for them, because otherwise you're just going to get kicks out the back end of the end zone every time, or you make it, I don't know, you've just got to make it more interesting. I don't know, maybe you roll a dice, 2 dice, and like the combined number, so you get 56, right? And 56 is the number of the player that has to do the kickoff. Sometimes it might be all right because your kicker like would get it. So you have a kicker that still does the field goal kick. Sometimes the kicker gets it, but also sometimes the defensive lineman gets it.
Just this 350-pound man lumbering up to the football, going, oh!
Just watch it go like 30 yards right, and then it's just like, But that, at least, you know, it's the same thing in rugby, where you put the ball down in the, it's not called the end zone in rugby, but let's call, for this argument, let's call it the end zone. You put the ball down there, and wherever you've put it down, 30 yards out is where your guy now has to kick it from, which in rugby is why you'll often see them, they run into the end zone, and then they'll do one of these, where they kind of come along to the middle and then place it in the middle.
Now this is for the extra points. This isn't kickoffs. That's different.
So it would be great if you had DeAndre Hopkins catch the ball and he lands, you know, on the far right knocks the pylon over and gets it in, gets the touchdown. And then you just see a kicker with his head in his hands going, I'm fucking right-footed. I've got to make a boomerang that way to try and get it through. And then you actually would then watch the extra point because, as I was saying to Jared before, unless it's in a stadium where it's really windy, at which point you go, well, this is mildly interesting, or it's for the game, I don't watch the extra kicks because, in my opinion, as a professional who plays, like you're a professional, your job is to kick the ball, you should be 100 over 100.
Or field goals, I'm sure you don't really watch those either.
No, you should be 100 over 100.
Yeah.
So make it more interesting. Make the defensive line do it. I don't know. Just make it. But kicking a ball off in a stadium when you see the kicker taking wind measurements, you're in a stadium. It's surrounded on all sides.
Ooh, the air is approximately moving exactly 5 millimeters per hour.
Yeah. Oh, Frank in row 3 farted 10 minutes ago. That might throw my kick off to the right. Fuck off.
Moved a bit of wind that way. Well, I'll come back. I'll come back to a couple of points that I want to do, and then we'll get into the podcast.
Okay.
The rugby football, or whatever you call it, the rugby ball and the Canadian football are both bigger, thicker, and therefore heavier than the NFL football. Which means it's... Sorry?
A rugby ball. Like the first time someone threw me an American football, I'd grown up catching rugby balls. A rugby ball is like sandpaper. Like you don't catch it. It takes the first layer of skin off your hands and then you've got it. An NFL football is really slick. Like here's a Canadian
football. It needs some air in it. But you can see it's about as tall, if not taller than my head.
So this is an NFL football.
And it's see how it's a little smaller?
Yeah.
Right? And then I try to fit my hand around this. Right? I have to like you don't struggle to put your hand around that. I have to really work at and this isn't inflated all the way, because Tom Brady did that one Super Bowl.
Just let's not get into that. I'm really tired. You're not getting.
But anyways, so this is thicker and therefore heavier. And I've kicked one of these things. I did a piece at college where I kicked a 25-yard field goal, and it took me about 18 tries to do it. And by the end of it, my foot was purple.
Yeah,
because it was cold. It was cold, and this is heavy. It's if I pump this up, this hurts.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why NFL kickers have such a hard time when the ball is the smallest and the lightest of the three footballs or the three balls of this shape that are kicked. I mean, kicking a rugby ball hurts. I don't like doing it. Absolutely. Fucking sucks. I kicked an NFL ball. I mean, they're not that bad. I can also understand, by the way, why guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Odell, and all that kind of stuff are able to catch the ball so well. Because I haven't got huge hands. I'm not a big hand guy. But I mean, they're decent size. I mean, I think my fingers are a bit longer than yours, but yeah. If I think my hand from thumb to forefinger is 8.5 inches, right? So Odell's measurement on that is like 12. 30. Yeah, no, I think he's 11. Right? That's that. God's sake. Right? So if I can hold this ball with one hand, right? His hand's just gonna, no wonder he can make an immense one-handed catch. Yeah, because his hand just engulfs the thing. And catches mitts. Of course he's gonna be able to do it. And that's why you don't see as many one-handed grabs in the CFL, because the ball's bigger. So what they actually have to do in the Canadian League is they have to kind of like knock it
Yeah.
and then grab it and pull it into themselves quickly because they can't get their hand like this isn't inflated all the way, and I can't. I'm squeezing it to keep a hold of it because it's so the radius or what is it diameter is longer than an NFL football. So, I see CFL kickers in November in Canada kicking 50-yard field goals with ease, and NFL kickers in a totally enclosed stadium in October missing 30-yard field goals. Like it just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense.
So they need to figure that out because all the NFL's doing is starting to poach CFL kickers to do their jobs better.
Well, it's CFL kickers and it's rugby players.
And rugby players. Yeah, you're right. We've been seeing that too.
The NFL can't breed its own talent because the people that are really good at positions, right, are the NFL kickers are almost to be rugby players. A lot of the tacklers are now becoming rugby players.
Because in rugby, you're taught how to tackle properly.
Yeah. And if you look at the offensive and defensive lines, those are Samoan rugby players. They're large. And if you turn around to a Samoan geezer that's played rugby all his life and say, all you have to do is stop that guy, get into that pasty white kid that's trying to throw that football, he'll just go, okay.
Boof.
Because the guy's weighed 350 pounds and can run like nobody's business.
Yeah. So the NFL has a lot of work to do, and I hope that they one day figure this out because they have been losing fans left, right, and center.
Yeah,
their viewership is going down, and it's the same with baseball too. They're two of the slowest games in the world. That are team sports. I'll say that because golf is the slowest game in the world.
Yeah, I can.
But football and baseball are two of the slowest team sports that are internationally televised. Yes. And it's no wonder that they're losing fans because people of our millennials and Gen Zs, quite frankly, are on these all the time. And if something doesn't happen every 15 seconds, nobody cares. That's why hockey and basketball are so much are not losing fans.
No, because you can't. It's the thing with the NFL is the problem is that for me personally is if you watch a rugby game, a hockey game, or something like that, the play is constant.
Yeah.
In rugby, you can't stop and go and do something because the play is constant. In the NFL, it's play, stop, play, stop, play, stop, play, stop. So you either need to increase that turnaround. I don't know.
Again, I come back to the CFL. The play clock in the CFL is 20 seconds. The play clock in the NFL is 40 seconds.
Why? But the problem with it being 40 seconds is that they go back, have a 20-second conversation with the coach, and then come back.
Well, yeah, and I've had a nap by the time they get the next snap off.
Yeah, and you're just like, and you've made a snap, and now I have to figure out why a penalty's been called on that player, but hasn't been called on that player, and why he can challenge every single other play, but as soon as it's within a certain time frame, he then can't challenge a play. And if I can see it on a massive screen at home in Stevenage, how you can't fucking see it when you're sat in the fucking stands?
Right. Well, before Gavin punches a hole in his wall for the officiating, which we can get back to later, perhaps, I welcome you all to Better Luck next week. We're already about 15, 20 minutes into the show, but that's fine because we're having a good time. Let's start with let's go to the F1 because there's a couple of things that we need to cover, and then we could come back to the NFL perhaps, and a couple other things as well. I actually have one of the things that I want to talk about on my iPad right now because the NWHL, National Women's Hockey League, has started their bubble for the Isobel Cup, being televised on Twitch right now. The Metropolitan Riveters are up 2-0 on the Toronto Six, but the Toronto Six look much better than the Metropolitan Riveters because their jerseys are way cooler. I'm gonna just say that. But they need to play better.
There's any reason that Jared is supporting the team from Toronto at all. He's completely impartial as this professional host.
Ugh. It's their only Canadian team.
Okay,
And
cool.
they're brand new. Anyways, Jenson Button has joined Williams as a senior advisor. Now, he used to drive for Williams. So he's coming back to the team to, I guess, I mean, there's really nowhere for them to go but up. So I can only see this as a positive, especially because of his broadcasting as well. But obviously you think otherwise.
I love Jenson Button. I have loved Jenson Button always because he was the British driver. I loved it when we had him and Hamilton. Technically, he is the only driver to ever best Hamilton completely over 2 seasons. He beat him on points. He beat him on race wins, everything. He was a better driver when they were at McLaren. But if you listen to anything where he talks about his time in F1 or anything like that, the one thing he will openly admit was he was not good with the engineers. It's not his strength. It's not something he's good at. It's not something he likes doing. It's not something he enjoys doing. He's not good with the engineers. Now, I'm sure that changed over the later periods of time of his career, and he is evidently very good at being a racing driver. So I think he might be able to have that conversation between the drivers and the car. But he'll openly admit it's never been his strength. This is a strange... I can see that if you are a corporate person trying to make this decision, how you would go, we want to remind everyone we're still a British team. We need to employ someone as a kind of consultant. Jenson Button. And it does make sense to have someone that's a bit more experienced with all that kind of stuff sat in the room.
And I think that's more what they're going for. I mean, all we know is that he's a senior advisor, right? That's all it said on the Instagram, right? So a senior advisor could mean anything, really, right? It's just, Jenson will just show, it could be anywhere from Jenson shows up on occasion and goes, it's not good, mate.
If it was me, I would probably be getting him in the car and going, drive around a few laps. And then when he brings it in and he goes, this is shit, this is shit, this is shit, this is shit, then you go, oh, okay, that's where we need to improve. Because I think the problem is that your 2 guys you've got at the moment, as much as George Russell drives the Mercedes every week, I think the only response you're getting from him is probably, it's slower than the Mercedes, to which the engineers would turn around and go, really, George? Really? It's slower than Mercedes? Where is it slower? The lap.
Yeah. It is lesser.
Yeah.
So what can you do? Anyways, that's happened.
Yes.
We also know that Alfa Romeo will be the first team to launch their car for 2021 on February 22nd, which is, I mean, honestly, just kind of a date. I think the both of us kind of feel that it's not really going to be the most interesting year for car releases.
It's going to be a paint job, but the problem is that you can't actually change the car from last year to this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this is our car. It looks identical with the car that you saw us put in a truck at the end of last year.
Hey, look, but we painted a new strip of something on it. Yeah.
We sobered Kimmy up enough that he could come to this. Kimmy.
And Kimmy's there like, I don't care.
I don't give a fuck.
Don't care.
What's wrong?
Okay. That's about it for Formula One, really.
Yeah, it's the off season. Nothing's going on. I did want to mention that obviously Daniel Ricciardo and McLaren look to be going very well. They've got him on an intensive training course to make sure that he gets everything he could possibly get done as soon as possible, doing simulations of everything and having regular meetings, not only with the engineers, but with Lando, which is difficult at the moment because he's got COVID. But they've made it quite clear at McLaren that their 2 drivers are going to share information with each other. There's no, like Norris is sat there going, this is how the car actually felt during this race, because there's always a gap between the simulator and the real world. This is how this worked. This is how this actually was. which I hope to be good. I hope to give a real world. I hope that those two can hit the ground running. I really do. With Mercedes power, I hope they're up there.
Well, and I can't see any other outcome, to be honest. I think it's going to be quite good. Before we get into the NFL games, because I think that wraps up our Formula One discussion. The Steelers have signed quarterback Dwayne Haskins for reasons. Does this mean that Big Ben is retiring?
Why? But why? If this was the future, if you were going, we're going to bring someone in as the future of our franchise, and we want to completely revolutionize our team. This guy is not the guy you sign. This is a guy.
Does he back up Rudolph though for the future?
Rudolph is not the future of your team.
Oh, okay.
He's not the future of your team. Are you trying to cue me up to make the same joke I made before we started the podcast?
You could do if you'd like.
I'm not. It worked on you.
It might be a little bit insensitive.
It might be.
But that's okay.
But
regardless, the Steelers need more than a quarterback. They need a whole mentality shift because they thought they were top shit when they were 11-0, and then they went 1-5.
Yeah, I don't know what the switch was there, because as an 11-5 and an 11-0 team, your logic is like, okay, let's clean. The mindset is there. I don't know if they sat back on their laurels and went, "Oh, we're all right. We're definitely making the playoffs." But I don't know. You've got a very talented team. Your wide receivers are without a doubt one of the best set of wide receivers in the league, because they are big, they are fast, and they can catch a football.
Mm-hmm.
There's some work to be done with the attitude there. But I don't know. You're a talented football team. I don't know if Big Ben is your future for the next couple of years. I just don't think he's got it anymore. He didn't look to be able to make the deep throws. He didn't be able to, couldn't push the ball downfield. I mean, as much as 2 of those interceptions in that Browns game weren't his fault, it was still a 4-interception game.
Yeah. Two of those interceptions were absolutely his fault, for sure. Yeah. And, the third one you could even say was an ill-advised throw or an overthrow.
Yeah, you shouldn't have pushed it down there.
Yeah. And then, the fourth one was just a pass block. What can you do there? But
what can you do? I can kind of understand if you were thinking of someone and there's guys out there that you were like, actually, no, do you know what? We want this guy. Like, there's all these good quarterbacks that are out there on the market. If Big Ben's gone, hey, I'm considering going, there's a lot of other guys, Kirk Cousins. There's a lot of guys out there that can throw the football quite well, or maybe it not be the best quarterback out there, but you probably want them compared to this guy. I don't understand the move. Doesn't make sense. I think the only other off-season move that I saw was the Ravens released their starting running back.
Oh my God. Sorry. This Riveter player just got destroyed in open ice.
Is she doing a Patrick Mahomes impression?
No. But, it was a beautiful hit. And all I'll say is that I wish that women's hockey would allow for some more type of hip checking or body contact to a degree. Because now the referees are discussing whether the Toronto 6 player should be, effectively, I guess they're deciding whether or not she should be ejected from the game for a body check.
Just let that's a bit dumb. You wanted to moan about the officiating in the NHL.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Don't worry. Oh, what a beautiful hit. She doesn't get her in the head or anything either. That's a beautiful hit. I'm sorry.
It's one of those, man. Not much I can do for you there.
No, I know. There were a couple other offseason moves that we can talk about if you'd like. The Lions have hired Dan Campbell as their new head coach, and he came out swinging in his first press conference. Did you see that?
I haven't seen this. I've heard about it.
Oh, he basically said that the Lions are going to be the most competitive team and that he's going to mold them into this team that will claw at you and come back, and you can knock us down and we'll get back up, and you can knock us down more and punch us in the face, and then we'll claw back up and bite your kneecap. And it was such a weird it was really strange. And I'm also sitting there just like, you have seen your roster, right? Your starting quarterback is Matt Stafford, who's being paid like Aaron Rodgers.
I think there's a lot of teams that are going to have quarterbacks that they want rid of that can't get rid of them because of these contracts at the moment.
Probably, and especially because we're in a pandemic right now where teams are going to not want to spend more money than they have to.
No. There's not many teams that go, do you know what we want to do? We want to spend $40 million a year on someone that is terrible.
Yeah. The Ravens released Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
And then there somebody else got hired. Here it is. The Chargers hired Brandon Staley, the offensive coordinator for the Rams, as their new head coach.
Why is it always offensive coordinators?
I don't know.
Why isn't it the defensive coordinator?
Because defensive coordinators, I guess, are better served as defensive coordinators.
True.
Sometimes they do make sometimes they do make the switch, though. I mean, I think it's more common in the CFL for a defensive coordinator to become a head coach than an offensive coordinator like this like how common it is in the NFL. There was another coach hiring that I have forgotten about, but the somebody hired the Colts coordinator to be their new head coach, and I don't know why I can't find out who it was. Wasn't that the Eagles? Didn't the Eagles hire the Colts?
I think the Eagles are trying to do something. They need to move some money around and figure some stuff out. But
well, anyways, just so that we don't look like rambling morons,
we have for the last 20 minutes because
Phillip Rivers retired, of course.
Oh yeah, we saw that coming though.
I think we did. We can commemorate him for his, fifth most all-time passing yards in the NFL, and fifth most all-time in passing touchdowns in the NFL as well.
Did Drew Brees officially retired yet?
No, and we'll get to that.
That's coming.
We'll see. But Rivers is done. People say that he was exceptional. I don't disagree, but I don't put him in an exceptional category. He was an elite talent, but whether or not he had the teams around him to make him so, or because he played for the Chargers and the Colts.
There's a lot of people that turn around and go Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame.
Which he will. He'll go to the Hall of Fame. And I know you don't like that because you base your Hall of Fame decisions on how many championships people have won. But that's because you're a Patriots fan.
No, because it's a game where you win, and the person that wins most should get into the Hall of Fame because they've won a lot.
Well, Phillip Rivers won a lot of games. He didn't win a lot of championships, but he won a lot of games. You don't get fifth all time in passing yards and passing touchdowns without winning games.
He's fifth all time in passing yards now. When Aaron Rodgers finishes up, that's probably going to denote him down to sixth. So he's sixth in passing yards of all time. And Tom Brady finally finishes his career. He's going to then knock him down again. So that's
Tom
seventh.
Brady's ahead of him already, Gav.
Yeah, sorry. So then Patrick Mahomes is going to have his way.
Yeah.
And then maybe Baker, and then maybe
If Baker has a long enough career,
quarterback for
yeah.
the
Yeah.
quarterback for the Texans. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks in this year's game that are very quickly gonna knock him down. So at one point we're going to be going, Phil Rivers is going into the Hall of Fame. Currently the 15th highest ranking passing touchdowns.
He'll already be in the Hall by the time that stuff happens, Gav. You have to remember that, I mean, Brett Favre and Peyton Manning are ahead of Phillip Rivers, and they've already been replaced by Tom Brady and Drew Brees. Ben Roethlisberger is only, well, I say only, he's 11,000 passing yards behind Brett Favre, which isn't unattainable if he doesn't carry on. You know who's ninth?
No.
Matt Ryan. It's not exactly a difficult list.
Should Matt Ryan make it into the Hall of Fame?
It's not exactly a difficult list to climb. But I'm going to say Matt Ryan only has 55,000 passing yards, so it's not that impressive. The top 5 are impressive. Drew Brees is the only player who has 80,000. Tom needs just shy of 1,000 to break 80,000.
Okay.
But
is this including off season? Is this including postseason yardage?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Believe this is regular season.
Uh-huh.
Active players in all caps. Yeah.
Okay.
Regardless, Phillip Rivers will go into the Hall.
Yeah, okay.
And because the Hall of Fame is for great players, and Phillip Rivers was a great player.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that because he was very good.
Yeah.
My problem with the Hall of Fame is that it's always going to be difficult because not every single player makes it to the postseason every year. But for me, postseason yards should count.
And it does.
Yeah.
And that's why Tom Brady's going to be first ballot into the Hall. I mean, Phillip Rivers may not be first ballot, but he'll probably go in.
Yeah, okay, I can agree with that. At first ballot, I don't think so, but he should eventually make it. Yeah.
Now, what you won't agree with is Drew Brees will probably be first ballot.
I can't argue with that because on the numbers, he is.
That's why. But I know you don't like it because I can see it niggling you.
I don't like it because there's some players that basically, I think that the most difficult football you play every single year is in the postseason.
Yeah.
Yeah? So those are the yards that are the most difficult to come by. Now, I'm not saying they should be worth more, but I'm just saying that it should be factored in. Because if, Derrick Henry is the first player to have 2 200-yard games in one season. Yeah? He did both of that against the Vikings. So he played the Vikings, had 200 yards, had 213 yards against them, and played the Vikings again 2 weeks later and had 250 yards against them. And it's like, well, that's great, but you're basically playing against a practice team.
This is the first Titans quarterback to do that? What is this record?
Titans running back, Derrick Henry.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that's fine, but Derrick Henry will go into the Hall of Fame along with a few other running backs. But then there's people that we go, actually, no, that person doesn't deserve to make it into the Hall of Fame. Julian Edelman, if you look at his regular season stats, I can't argue with that. He's not had, if you look at the Odells, you look at the Jarvises, who have had 1,000-yard seasons every single year. Now, he has had 1,000-yard seasons. He's also had seasons where he's only just got over 800 yards. But he is currently, and I unfortunately think that he's not going to get any more, he's number 2 in postseason receiving yards.
Oh, yeah. That will put him into the Hall of Fame. He might not be first ballot, but something like that will put him into the Hall of Fame.
To me, there always needs to be an element of a competition to it because it's like, well, this team was great. Well, yeah, but then as soon as they went to the postseason and played a team that was good, they just got rolled over. So it kind of makes me scratch my head.
Right, let's talk about the games.
Okay.
before you go off on something else. I picked the Packers, Bills, Chiefs, and Bucks, and that's exactly what happened. And I think you didn't do the same thing, did you?
No.
Because you you have a unconditional love for the Browns at the moment.
It's not an unconditional love, right? I like what.
Are you sure?
Yeah, every team I pick it every year because I've been a Patriots fan. I've always picked another team. I go, this team's interesting this year, and I kind of follow, two teams. I'm not a fan. I follow that team because they're the interesting team that year. Now, for quite a lot of my football watching life, being a Patriots fan in its whole has been quite boring until the end of the year because it's like, oh, we won. 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 We lost. What happened there? Oh, okay. Oh, we won the next week. There's no underdog to that, so it's not very committing. And at the moment, watching my team play is just fucking depressing. It hurts.
And it brings much joy to many other people across North America.
Do you want to talk about this game first?
Sure, because I know you. We get it, I think. So the Packers beat the Rams.
Which, I mean, you would play this to me would be a worry if I was a Packers fan, because you wanted more of a test before going into this week.
Probably, and you played
a broken Jared Goff.
You played a broken Jared Goff, who still went 21 for 27, but it's not like he was throwing them downfield. It was like
Well, he did have a broken thumb,
right?
So that probably makes it quite difficult to throw the football.
So he didn't throw it very far.
No, just pretty surgical from the Packers. It was just,
but you compare that to pissed off Aaron Rodgers, who went 23 for 36, 296 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And Jalen Ramsey looked like a little bitch.
Yeah,
because he not only got beat on a route, he spoke shit and was mic'd up, and they saw him speaking shit. And the greatest moment in history happened where he was on the line. The Packers wide receiver went, well, come over here then, because you and me is what everyone wants to see, so let's do it. He came over, and I think you just saw Aaron Rodgers go, oh, okay. Ran 5 yards out and then separated, and you just watched Jalen Ramsey watch his career fall away as the guy got 10 yards of separation, caught it, and then just ran another 10 yards and then got tackled by someone else. He was nowhere near him. And then he just, as he was walking back, the wide receiver went, where were you? And you heard nothing from Jalen Ramsey for the rest of the game, which was just, you can't argue that. You can't dispute that. You got destroyed on a route.
Yeah.
And you now look like an utter idiot because you were talking shit the entire game. And now you just look dumb.
And quite frankly, Jalen Ramsey did not have a good game himself. He had 1 tackle and 3 assists. That was it.
That was about it.
So this was a powerful win for the Packers, a needed win for the Packers. They exploded in the second quarter for 16 points, and it was a complete game as well.
Yeah.
Multiple receivers catching lots of footballs. Alan Lazard for 96 yards, Devontae Adams for 66, Robert Tonyan Jr. for 60.
Yeah, he's
and then over 150 yards of rushing between 2 running backs. I mean, that's as complete a game as I think you can ask for in the playoffs.
The next one I think showed a fundamental problem with the Ravens.
Yeah,
which was the Bills took away the run because
they knew that's what they had to do.
Yeah, they knew that was. I mean, rushing, you had both of their running backs went 10 carries for only 42 yards.
Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson was even less.
Yeah,
who we're used to seeing him run about as much as he throws.
Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't a bad throwing game. There's no one here over 100 yards.
No.
He went 14 for 24, 162 yards and 1 interception.
That interception killed them.
Yeah. I mean, it
really killed them.
It was pick 6. It was a complete thing. But I mean, the problem is with the team that's built this way is that when you get to the postseason and teams know what you're going to try and do, the Ravens don't even hide it. They go, we're going to run. We're going to run. We're not going to try and pass it. It's not a team where you go, right, the run isn't working. Let's try something else. They just run.
What I will say about the Bills is it's a little worrying that they were only able to score basically in one quarter. They got a field goal at the beginning of the game, and then they couldn't score until the second half, where they got 14 points in the third quarter. But that was it. It's a brilliant defensive game because they stopped the run and didn't need to worry about anything else. But I wanted to see more of a spread of points throughout the game. And it's a little worrying if you're a Bills fan, in my opinion, that they only really scored in one quarter.
Yeah. The concern for me, not from the Bills' point of view, but the Ravens have now shown that they are not built to win in the postseason. I mean, Lamar Jackson is 1 for 1, 2-1 in the postseason now, which is the problem because, it's all well and good when you can do the plink and the plonk and you can throw it when the run isn't there and get a few yards. But there needs to be, it needs to be a situation where at halftime he can go into the locker room, look the coach in the eye, go, Coach, the run isn't working. And him go, okay, right, we're going to sit in the pocket and we're going to throw. And be able to turn that game on and go, okay, right, we can throw, we can move on with this. Moving on to the next one. This was a difficult game. Me and you both watched this. Actually, we watched it together for a little while, which I thought was quite nice. I enjoyed that. The Browns could have won this game, but I think really in reality, and I don't think you can argue with me on this one, from 0-16 to losing by 1 score to the defending Super Bowl champs, I don't really know what more you could have asked for. I think the Browns this year were unlucky with injuries because at the safety position they had no one. Yeah. Their first guys had got injured. Their second guys had got injured. I think they can go into the draft this year and get some. They're a bit more open. They can go, actually, do you know what's out there? Let's have a look. I think maybe something. You don't need running backs. You don't need wide receivers. You don't need quarterbacks.
I wouldn't object to a wide receiver simply because they could use a little bit more depth at that position.
Yeah, that's true.
Losing Odell wasn't detrimental.
No.
But it wasn't great. And if you lose Odell again or someone else, they need to be able to have somebody come in and fill that role, I think, better than it was filled.
The thing I'm looking forward to, and this is partially being confirmed, is that Odell and a couple of the other Browns players are going, when they can, to throw with Baker. And I think that everyone that's saying that the Browns are better off without Baker, without Odell, it's just dumb. It's just dumb because Stefanski has now got this system in place. Baker knows how to work it. They're going to get Odell in. I don't think that Baker will be... I think before it was difficult because Odell would come in and he is the big guy and Baker's trying to implement himself. But now he can kind of go, no, you play in my system. This is how we're going to do it. And I think that'll be a partnership. The Browns have got the money to keep everyone at least for the next 4 or 5 years because they have the highest amount of cap space of anyone. I think they have £42 million going into the offseason, which is, and I mean, that's not without your draft, like who you're going to draft. But yeah, I think there were a few things in this game. The helmet-to-helmet hit, which I don't understand how that is just stupid in the entirety of football because I think
and it resulted in a touchback, right?
It resulted in a touchback. That needs looking at. But for me, the wide receiver is vulnerable because he's dived towards the end zone, ball is outstretched. And in my opinion, the opposing player made no effort not to lead with the helmet.
Correct.
his arms weren't out in front of him, and okay, he's at a low angle, so you've got to go in low, and it's hard to look up with those helmets.
He dropped his shoulder and led like this. There was no other reason. There was no other way to define it.
Why is that an unchallengeable play? Why? What, if basically you have the challenge flag so that you can challenge the ref's decisions, but you can't use it at certain points in the game. That just doesn't make sense to me. I think
I also just don't understand why you are not is there not a line judge at the goal line? How does the line judge miss that? There's an audible sound.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that the defender did not do anything other than dive head first. I just don't understand how you can miss that when you're standing right there trying to see if this is a touchdown or not.
Yeah. The thing for me that I can't understand, there's multiple layers to this. First, when I first looked at it, and I'll have to look at it again, Hollywood Brown has control of the football as it knocks the pylon over, which to me, he's got control. He's crossed the goal line. Mm-hmm. He's put the ball out. He's gone, I've got control of this. I've put this out. He's then hit in the head, which should be a helmet-to-helmet hit, clear helmet-to-helmet hit. And so for me, the outcome of this play should be either a touchdown with 15 yards enforced on the kickoff for a team, 15-yard penalty for targeting, effectively. Direct helmet-to-helmet hit. That's targeting, 15 yards and touchdown. Or the Browns should receive the ball when his knees hit the ground, which I think, if you were honest, was probably about the 1 or 2 yard line. At the 2 yard line, where it was knocked out of bounds and where he lost control, with a first down and a penalty against that specific player. Because I'm sorry, even me and you who have played sport at a lower level, we were never, we played sport at no level. You know exactly what you're doing. There's no situation that you go into and you don't, you're like, oh, they made a snap decision or something like that. No, I've hit people in the face with a lacrosse stick, and I'll sit in my head and go, yeah, I fucking meant to do that. That happened.
Yep. That was the wrong choice, but it happened.
It happened. So a professional athlete knows what he's doing when he's tackling someone.
What I will say, I don't remember seeing his knee down, which would negate the touchdown.
Yes.
But for me, and I would have to really look into the rules, which I don't really have the time for.
No.
But you would really have to dive deep into the rules as to exactly what would happen. Would the penalty negate the touchback or not?
Well,
right?
The thing
for me, it should.
Yeah, you've got to look
because the helmet-to-helmet hit is what caused the touchback.
Yeah.
If there's no helmet-to-helmet hit, if there's no hit, period, that's a touchdown. Yes. He doesn't lose control of the ball.
Doesn't lose control.
But to me, the touchback should be negated by the 15-yard penalty. To me, it should be a 20-yard penalty for stuff like that.
Yeah, it's got to be one of those things.
It's got to be more than just unnecessary roughness, 15 yards like that. You rustle a guy up a bit and throw them to the ground, and you get a 15-yard penalty, and that's worth the same as driving your helmet into some other guy's helmet.
It should be enough that when you do it, the defensive, offensive, and head coach are screaming at you because you've just lost fucking 30 yards or something stupid. You're like, well done, you made the fucking tackle, but we're now fucking over there somewhere. Yeah. Like, we've got to kick off in the car park because we've run out of yards.
Yeah. It needs to be, they need to look at discipline in the NFL. And we've been saying this for years between the two of us personally, I think, and on this podcast as well. They're just concerned for player safety is inadequate.
There's two things that I think that they should implement from rugby. One, I think that the rule in rugby is that you aren't allowed to lead with the head. In rugby, you never lead with the head because your head is exposed as his, and it's going to hurt.
Why would you lead with that?
You can't lead with the shoulder. So everything in rugby, if I'm in rugby and I do this, or hit you with just my shoulder, the ref's going to ruin me for it. I think
you have to do this. You have to
run
reach
that
but drop the shoulder, right?
Yeah, you have to make an effort. I think the other one as well, and this is something I see in the NFL that really scares me, is that when a guy comes up, it's everyone on the responsibility of it doesn't matter what team you are, it's the responsibility to get him down safely. Because in the NFL, you see all the time a guy jumps up in the air and then someone hits his knees and it's when you're flying through, and you just go, no one in rugby would ever do that. Yes, in rugby, sometimes you have to jump up for the ball, but it is the response. Even if you're on the other team and you see the guy up there and you go, do you know what? I want to slam him to the ground. No, it is your job to, if you tackle him, he has to go to the ground safely.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do that, you're torn apart for it. Because there's so many times where you see a player go up and then get hit by a 350-pound lineman as he comes to the ground. You're like, as soon as he's up in the air, he has no control over his body. So I think that's one of the ones that would negate a lot of injuries. Like if you go up, it's everyone else's job to get you down safely. Because I think that would make the game a lot safer.
You're not necessarily going to get rid of the big hit either, though. But you're going to get rid of guys just running through each other and going, oh, have fun landing on your, deal
with that.
Yeah. Have fun landing upside down and backwards because I've just sent you spiraling through the air because I knocked your kneecaps off.
Yeah. I think it's also as well, for me in this game, there's a lot of people that turn around and went, oh, well, Baker's got to win. He's got to, the team's on him. He's got to win and stuff like that. This is still a young team. This is Stefanski's first time in the postseason. This is Baker's first time. This is basically this entire team's first time in the postseason. I think that they'll learn from this. They'll come back, with a bit more trust and stuff like that. I think Stefanski will be able to put it on Baker and go, right, you go and win the game. But Kansas City aren't the number 2 ranked team in all of football for no reason. As much as people say, oh, well, the defense isn't great, it's still a very good defense. Like, they're talented. They move around a lot. They're not great at stopping the run. They need to work on that. But they're still a talented football team. You can't take that away from them. And this defense played very well.
Yeah, the Browns do need to bolster up their defense a little bit. And I just think that'll be their prime focus this offseason. But they will be good for a long period of time. And so will the winners of the previous game, the Buffalo Bills. But we have to talk about the end of, or the ending perhaps of some careers, because the Buccaneers beat the Saints 30-20, and that was, I believe, the combined oldest pair of quarterbacks ever to play each other in an NFL postseason game. Tom Brady at, I believe, 42 and Drew Brees at 41, right?
Yeah.
And again, neither quarterback was very impressive. And this seems to be I hope the theme of NFL playoffs carries on from previous seasons, because the wild card games were not very interesting, to be blunt.
No.
These games were not very interesting.
No.
To be blunt. This one was probably the most interesting one. That's only because the lead kind of kept swapping back and forth, right? The Saints were ahead for a little while. Then the Bucks came back, tied it. Bucks went ahead for a little while. Then the Saints tied it up again. And it was back and forth like that. But neither quarterback broke 200 yards, which to me is not good.
No.
And even Jameis Winston threw a ball in this one, which I think everybody kind of went, oh, he did it. Okay. Woo.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people. So yeah, I think this is another stop on Tom Brady's revenge tour, which was, oh, okay, well, I've only ever played him, like the last time I think that these guys played in the postseason. Well, not in the postseason, but last time these guys played, Tom had like Chris Hogan, Damian Dola, and when I think that that's the prime time of like Patriots wide receivers, it hurts. But Drew might have beat him, and then he'd be able to go, oh well, you beat me because I had better people, blah 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 blah. This to me, I think he's going to be a decision maker for Tom, because I really think that he's going to end up. I think the logical is unfortunately going to be a Buccaneers Chiefs Super Bowl. And this will be Tom going, oh, okay, I can beat the like if Tom goes, okay, well I've beat Drew, I've beat Aaron. Okay, well let me beat Patrick Mahomes, and then I can go, okay, well I've beaten the 4 other guys that are in the conversation at the moment of the greatest. Let me go up a couple of years. But yeah, this was quite I got to be honest, I didn't see the Saints pulling something out, because, I mean, it was just a good.
Well, neither team played very well either. I mean, the run game wasn't very exciting for the Buccaneers either. Alvin Kamara was a bit better. I mean, he was 18 for 85 yards rushing. But, I mean, Drew Brees threw 3 interceptions. And that is the unfortunate part of this game, especially if it is to be his last. If this is to be Drew Brees' last game, it's a rough way to go out. And I do kind of feel bad for the guy, because it seems as though every time, like, obviously people get frustrated when they make mistakes.
Yeah.
And you'll see that on quarterbacks quite a lot when they throw an interception, they clap their hands together in frustration or something like that. Every time Drew threw an interception in this game, you just saw this look of pain and sadness on his face.
I've got to be honest as well. One of the things that I saw that I looked at quite a lot was when the ball was coming out of either one of their hands. When you see the ball come out of Tom's hands, it's still doing a tight spiral. Drew's balls, there was a tumble to that. And that's not normally how he throws a football. It wasn't coming out like a cannon. It wasn't, and I can, there's some people that, lip reader people that have said he's turned around to Jameis Winston and gone, this is your team now,
Well, and I don't think that would give a whole lot of hope to Saints fans, truly.
But then you don't know what, Jameis Winston's problem has always been decision making. So maybe a year sitting in a quarterback room with Drew Brees has kind of actually taught him the decision making part that he needed to be a complete quarterback. We don't know. The thing for me that kind of cements it that I think he is going to retire is him on his own in the stadium throwing balls to his kids. Because to me...
Well, and then Tom came out.
Now, I don't know if that's something they normally do, but it didn't look to be a conversation. It wasn't I'll see you down the road kind of thing. It was a hug, a bit of a chat, and then, Tom stuck around a bit and threw a pass to one of Drew Brees' sons, which I thought was very nice. And then, Tom walked off. Drew hugged his wife, picked up his daughter and kind of walked off. And, the fact that he wasn't in the locker room having conversation with the guys and going, we'll be back next year, it just kind of looked like he was just like, okay.
The point I will hold is the guy broke 11 ribs.
Yeah.
Or 14 ribs, something ridiculous like that. At 41, that's really difficult to come back from. And I mean, he's had that happen. And if somebody else, if he has another 350-pound lineman fall on his chest again, that
get to a point like when you're young and you're one of the young quarterbacks and you haven't proven anything, you're like, okay, well, I've broken my ribs, but let's get back out there and and you kind of sat in your house and you go, actually, do you know what? No, let's do the rehab work and all this kind of stuff. I think Drew Brees just can't be bothered anymore.
What I could see happening is I could see potentially, you mentioned the whole handing off the team to Jameis Winston. What I could see is that Drew coming back for one more season and them doing a 1A, 1B with Winston.
Yeah, I can see that.
Where, Breeze gets half the starts and Winston gets the other half. And Breeze is there on the sideline, basically helping Winston call plays, doing a mentorship kind of role for him, perhaps, while Breeze is still getting some playing time, maybe adding to his records a little bit. And, maybe the Saints go deep again next season with the two of them as a tandem.
A kind of a one last ride thing. But I think for this is it's going to be very much the same with Ben, is that both of these guys demand big money for contracts. They do. And both of them have had less than stellar seasons. Now, I think the situation is going to be the same for Drew Brees as it is going to be for Big Ben. When he walks into that room and starts to have the conversation about how much are you actually going to give me this year, I don't think that, depending on how that conversation goes, I don't think either one of them come back.
Well, for Breeze, it'll have to be less if they do the idea that I just suggested. It'll have to be less. Roethlisberger, I don't know. I mean, I just don't like the guy, so I'd be happy to see him go. But that's something different. Anyways, what I predicted at the beginning, and what I think will still hold up, is the Super Bowl will be the Packers and the Chiefs. You've got pissed off Aaron Rodgers on one side, who's played better, I would say, than Tom Brady in these playoffs.
Yeah.
And you've got Patrick Mahomes, who is healthy. He's been cleared. I know. He's been cleared by concussion protocol, and his ankle is fine.
Yeah.
I guess.
We didn't talk about it when we spoke about the game. That was strange, because at no point I've watched a couple of angles of it. At no point do you see a helmet to helmet. It's almost as if he got choked out.
I think there was
his arms kind of like this, and he goes down. But at no point do you see the helmet hit the other helmet, and then he gets up, and even the offensive linemen are like.
I think it was more so him being yanked and then hitting the ground.
Okay.
Right? He's gotten yanked one way like this, so his head snaps back and then hits the ground. So his brain's done this in his head, in his cranium, right? So I think it's more so to do with that.
Yeah.
In my very uneducated medical opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's rapid movement. I'm very surprised he's back this week, if I'm honest.
Especially because, I mean, he barely had a foot to walk on as well.
He didn't get up quick. Well, he got up, and then...
He very obviously twisted his ankle.
Yeah.
Because he got kind of, right, there was a player that kind of grabbed his arm, and he kind of went this way, but then his foot stayed and kind of went...
Yeah. I think the ankle's one of those ones that he can kind of get over. But to be honest, I was expecting 2 weeks with a head hit like that. Maybe he's, been able to come back from it a bit quicker. But
the other thing I will say is that I think Josh Allen will have to play a perfect game.
Yes.
Still, even though Mahomes is maybe not 100%, because Mahomes, I think, is probably at about 70%.
Yeah, but Mahomes at 70% is still very good.
Yeah. Mind you, Josh Allen is in the MVP conversation this year for very good reason.
But who do you think has a better connection? Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, or Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs?
It is a very good connection in Buffalo, though. You could argue either way.
Yes.
Because
so we're gonna make our picks.
I believe, if I just check here, Diggs has over 100 yards in every playoff game for the Bills.
Diggs is good in the postseason.
Yeah. Diggs has 106 against the Ravens and 128 against the Colts.
Right, picks.
So but what I will say is that Allen has to have the game that he had against the Colts.
Yeah.
If he has the game that he had against the Ravens, it's not going to be good enough. He only put up 206 yards against the Ravens. He put up over 300 against the Colts. And they squeaked that win out against the Colts as well. It has to be the performance against the Colts.
The thing you saw at the start of that Browns-Chiefs game was that you have to be able to score on every drive the same as them, because they just plink and plonk and plink and plonk and plink and plonk, run, plink, plonk, plink, score. Here's the ball. And if you can't match them, you're not keeping up.
Yeah. I mean, these two games should be incredible.
Yes. I have gone Bucks because I think Tom Brady's revenge tour is going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And Chiefs because I have learned my lesson as it was reinforced to me by one of our podcast listeners, James at work, every single day this week, that why did I bet against the Chiefs?
And you did message me right afterwards.
Yeah. What did I say,
or
Jack?
the next day, and you said, I'm an idiot.
I am an idiot. Yeah. It was close though. It was close.
I've gone Packers Chiefs because I think this is pissed off Aaron Rodgers' revenge tour. Not quite the same as Tom Brady's, but this.
Yeah, but how much do you think Tom wants to be able to, when they're signing them, when they're giving
absolutely
his jacket, go, yeah, but do you remember that postseason game when I beat you?
Yeah.
Because it'll just be like when Tom's inducted into the Hall of Fame, he'll be able to walk around and go, oh, Drew Brees beat you. Peyton beat you.
Yeah.
Oh, Aaron, yeah, you're not in yet, but I beat you. Beat you. Now give me my fucking jacket.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, here's all the quarterbacks I beat. And the funny thing as well will be if in like, I don't know, 30, 40 years time, when Patrick Mahomes gets inducted into the Hall of Fame and Tom Brady gets off of his Zimmer frame, gives him his jacket and goes, yeah, but you still lost to me.
That's fair. And I wouldn't be surprised if I end up messaging you on Sunday night and saying, why did I bet against Tom Brady?
Yes. Do it. Bet against Tom Brady, please. I want you to.
I am. I'm saying Packers Chiefs.
Uh-huh. And all those other times that you've bet against Tom Brady, all those Super Bowls when we were in those years that we've been friends, and you've gone, nah, Tom's not doing it. How's it gone for you?
Well, I mean, there was the one where he did not do it.
Uh-huh. So the one.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
I haven't said it every time either.
No.
I haven't bet against him every time.
I don't remember what you said when it was the Broncos and whatever other team, because I don't actually remember much that happened that night.
I don't think most of us do. But we do know that the Broncos won, and Dana was very happy about it.
Yes.
And I was too, because I believe I was cheering for the Broncos.
Yes, good.
Dana's actually tried to call me, so I have to figure out what's going on with that.
Okay, will you let me know?
I will.
I'm having a donut. I'm hungry.
Yeah, have a donut, because we have a couple of things that we'll wrap up with before we go.
Okay.
Like I said, the NWHL is playing right now. It is on Twitch. You can watch all the games on Twitch, and then NBC will be streaming the playoffs and the final, of course. NBC SN, of course. So if you're looking for some hockey to watch, especially during the day, because that's the thing, this hockey's on during the day, whereas NHL hockey's on at night. So if you are a hockey lunatic like myself and love it desperately, there's hockey for you all weekend, all day, all night, all weekend. So congratulations to the NWHL for kicking this off. And it looks to be kicked off very well. The Toronto Six are still down 2-0 though. So that tells me that they need a little bit more help on the goal scoring front. However, the Rivers goaltender has been spectacular from what I have seen as well. Now, I mentioned NBCSN because they announced earlier this week that they will be shutting down. I'm not sure if you knew that.
I didn't, because you didn't tell me before the podcast.
NBC Sports Network will be no more after this, I believe, hockey and football seasons. So once the NHL wraps up in July, they will not be around for another NFL season. They will not be around for another NHL season. That will be it for NBC's sports network. Not a whole lot else is known as to why. I'm sure this will come out in the coming weeks, and we can talk about it a bit more then. But my initial reaction was disappointment, but not sadness. Because while I admit, in my opinion, I think NBC had the best NFL theme out there, with Fox Sports at a close second as far as orchestral themes go. NBC was very safe with their sports broadcasting.
Yeah.
It was very down the middle, professional, safe, not really pushing any kind of envelope, not really making any kind of effort to make hockey any more interesting to Americans, in my opinion. And yes, they had one of the most storied commentators for hockey of this generation, which was, Doc Emmerich, who retired at the end of the unique playoffs last year.
Yeah.
But they're not, to me, this is a huge loss, and there's going to be a lot of job loss because of it.
Yeah.
But it's not a great whole, I think, in sports broadcasting now. I'm kind of hoping that perhaps ESPN picks up hockey again in the States and is able to really run with it, because ESPN has some of the most creative sports shows out there. I mean, First Take is spectacular as far as sports shows go.
Yeah.
So if they can do that, I'd be very interested to see what they could do with hockey and potentially with even more NFL, because they have very little NFL. And now whatever NBC covered of the NFL has to be picked up by somebody else.
I think that a lot of sports are going to start going to streaming services because they now have the money to do it. The thing for me is, so Formula One is currently being bid on by Amazon Prime. And to me, the problem is that this age-old thing of how cable companies used to work. I don't know how it works over in the States fully, but where to get the sports channel that you want, you have to buy a load of other channels.
Yeah.
I think that has caused a massive decline in people that watch sports, because I think that means that more and more people are either finding ways to stream it. So if you can put it on a platform that people are going to watch it on, because I think this whole tuning in to watch something at a set time that's not how our generation consumes media. I'm not going to go into the other room in a minute and go, oh, I've got to go and watch Top Gear because it starts at 8:30. I'm going to watch it when I want to watch it, for how long I want to watch it, and if I want to watch the entire season, I'll watch the entire season. So I think that's the way that you're going to be now presenting sports, where you go, okay, I want to watch hockey. Either I can watch the games live, or I can watch every single Toronto Maple Leafs game, and I pay to watch every. You pay for what you're ingesting, not everything else. I think that's
or you just pay for an Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, whatever subscription and get to watch everything.
Yeah.
You can tune in, you can put it on, if you've got your computer, your phone, and your tablet, you could have 3 different games running at the same time.
Yeah. And
because
I think
who cares?
That's what's going to work,
as
opposed to what the system is now. So.
Well, and the system now in the in North America for hockey specifically is incredibly broken, in my opinion. I can watch a Leafs game anytime, basically. I mean, in the sense of that I can watch every Leafs game when they air.
Mm-hmm.
Because I live in Ontario. I live in the region where the Toronto Maple Leafs get broadcast.
Okay.
I cannot watch the Montreal Canadiens on my television because I do not live in the region that the Montreal Canadiens are broadcast in. I cannot watch the Vancouver Canucks on my television because I'm not in the region that the Vancouver Canucks are broadcast in unless it is a national broadcast. So tonight I can watch the Vancouver Canucks play because it's a national broadcast. But on Tuesday, I can't watch the Vancouver Canucks play. But if Sportsnet is carrying the game, I could watch the Anaheim Ducks and the Arizona Coyotes play on the same night that the Montreal Canadiens and the Vancouver Canucks are playing in Vancouver.
If instead that was now a system that was on your TV, like it is on mine, where it's a smart TV, and you press the Amazon Prime button, and it has a thing where it goes sports, and you can just scroll through all the different games that are on, and you go, bonk.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Exactly. To me, this system prevents people from becoming fans.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, you live in Southern Ontario, so you'll be a Leafs fan then. It's like, well, what if I don't want to be a Leafs fan? My mom's a Habs fan, a Montreal Canadiens fan. She can't watch her team play unless they play on a Saturday night or a Wednesday night and it's broadcast nationally. It's stupid.
I mean, it's worse in the UK because I have a choice between Red Zone or the game that NFL UK have decided that they're going to bring, which I think they are the worst people at deciding what football game to watch ever.
Let's put the Eagles and the Browns game on.
It's like games that decide the postseason. Let's not program any of them.
Right.
Let's program 2 games between 4 teams who aren't going to make the postseason no matter the result.
We'll put the Giants and the Jets game on.
Anyway.
So yeah, it's a broken system that needs repair. And it'll be interesting because, to me, you still need the network, right? Like you still need a Sportsnet or a CBC or an ESPN or whatever to put the broadcast together.
Yeah. But I think that would be an Amazon Prime broadcast. I just think that you'll have the same production value. But you will just have an Amazon logo in front of it.
Right. So for me, all you'd need to do is just go have Amazon or whoever it is. I'm not a huge fan of Amazon because they're the evil overlords right now.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Jeff Bezos has made billions of dollars off this pandemic and has done nothing to make it better whatsoever.
And you've not had an Amazon Prime delivery ever?
No, not in the last 6 months.
Okay, but you still order things from Amazon, don't you?
I have because I've had to, because it's nowhere else.
We've given the man a monopoly. We can't argue about it.
Yes, and it's a crime. And the man's done nothing to repay people for the monopoly which he has created. Anyways.
Okay.
This is politics. We're talking about sports. All we need is a streaming service to hand over a few $1 million to Sportsnet or ESPN and go, here.
And I actually think that would be better because in the likes of something that we're always pushing, which was women's sports, if you turned around to me and went, okay, you like watching the NHL, there's not anything on game-wise for men at the moment, but here's a bunch of the women's games. because and this was going to be my recommendation for our viewers to watch, because it got recommended to me, The Lower Decks on Amazon Prime. Because, and I recommend you watch it, Jared, it's hilarious. It's a story about the guys, not the guys on the making the decisions on the Enterprise. It's more like the guys that clean up after the guys that clean up after the guys on the Enterprise. Like the ship that they're on, Jared, specializes in second contact.
Ooh.
So after the Enterprise has made first contact, they go along and make sure that all the paperwork is correctly filled out. That's their job.
And that nobody's pissed off about anything.
Yeah, that's about it. That's about the limit of their job, and it's brilliant.
That does sound rather good.
Yeah.
Right. I think we should save our officiating rant perhaps next week, because I think we're going a little long today. But we've had some very good discussion, and I think it would be good to end it there. So we'll wish better luck next week to all the losers. And it looks like the first loser is going to be the Toronto Six, because there's about 2 minutes left in the third period, and they still haven't scored a goal yet. They're still down 2-0. So we wish better luck tomorrow to the Toronto Six, because they're playing the Minnesota Whitecaps tomorrow.
Okay.
And we wish better luck next week to whoever the losers are, the Bills or the Packers, the Chiefs, or the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see you again on Friday.
Have you ended the podcast?